everyone. Most of you know me. My name is Mabie. I'm going to tell you a story of my experience as a gay person in the Air Force in the 1980s. I signed up to join the Air Force in my senior year of high school, shortly after turning 17, in the delayed enlistment program. 2 weeks after I graduated, I was whisked away to basic training, and I turned 18 while in basic training. At that time, I knew I was different, but being from Indiana, I wasn't willing to accept the fact that I was gay. I just thought something was wrong with me. I met my first girlfriend while in tech school, and then I realized I was gay. After serving in the Philippines, I returned to March Air Force Base in Moreno Valley. I excelled at my job as a law enforcement drug dog canine handler. I had a dog that initially wouldn't search for drugs, so I took him back to the basics. I was able to get him certified by the base commander, and the dog eventually made his way to the top drug dog on the base. Then I started getting all kinds of awards, at least 2 a month for the work I was doing. One day, I decided to send a letter to one of my straight ally friends who was in the Philippines with me. I wrote to her about my Filipina girlfriend and what I was doing here at March. I didn't know that my letter was returned, and it was given to the OSI, the Office of Special Investigations. My typewritten U.S. mail letter was illegally opened by someone else. One of my former roommates at March gave me the heads up that I'd be called in for the investigation. At that time, there was no don't ask, don't tell. There were only what they called witch hunts. I was called in and interrogated for over 3 hours. Finally, they pulled out my typed letter, and I thought, I have no way out. I admitted I was gay, and then they questioned me about every friend I had and who I dated. I refused to give them even one name. They searched my car. They told me I would never be able to see my drug dog again. And that's when it hit me. As a law enforcement canine handler, we stood out by wearing blue berets, blousing our pant legs so they looked like they were tucked into our boots. And I was made to unblouse my pants and clean the yards as if I were a convicted criminal. I was told I'd be out of the Air Force in 3 days. After a week, my assigned attorney called me and said they wanted to give me an other than honorable discharge. I told him I'd go to the press enterprise and spill the beans on the other criminal cases they had me testify on. He quickly told me to stay put, and he'd call the base commander, who was the only one with any pull over the base judge advocate. He said he'd call me back in 15 minutes. In less than 5 minutes, he called, and he said I was getting an honorable. The next day, I was put at the front gate picking up trash. A teenager I had recently arrested for drugs drove in and waved at me with a confused look on her face. It was so belittling to be put down so low after the military had built me up so high with pride to serve my country. I left the next day and was told to go collect unemployment. I was denied there, though, because my DD-214 discharge papers were coded honorable, Article 39-10, homosexuality acts. The EDD didn't have a code, so they couldn't give me unemployment. They suggested I go to arbitration, but I was already so humiliated, I didn't go. Shortly after that, I didn't even know where to turn. I felt like such a failure. I thought if I weren't gay, this wouldn't have happened to me. I had a new relationship that wasn't very healthy for me. So I tried to end my life. First, I tried sleeping pills, but my girlfriend found me, took me to the ER where our friend worked, and they made me drink a chalk to get the sleeping pills out of my system. Then I tried to shoot myself, but I couldn't pull the trigger. The last time, I put a hose in my car window, taped it up, put it on the other end of the exhaust, and then I sat in the car and began writing about the reasons I was a failure when I fell asleep. I woke up the next morning with somebody hitting the window and yelling at me. The car had run out of gas, even though I had a half a tank in it. I was dazed, but I remember thinking, there's got to be a reason I'm still here. I'm still searching for the reason, but I'm not going anywhere without a fight. It's been a struggle, but with great friends, lots of support, including this congregation. I look at life more positively now. I never thought in my lifetime I would see myself being able to get married, and yet here I am with my wife, who will tell you our story of our weddings. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jan, for sharing your story. I know there's a book in there. A lot in there. And we're all very happy you are a failure at one thing. I'm so proud of all of your accomplishments and for speaking out like you're doing. When I figured out I was gay 8 years ago, I never dreamed I'd be able to marry a woman either. But here we are, an old married couple. Our wedding was 3 years ago today. I know all weddings are really special, but we think our wedding was a really special story, and we thought we'd end our talk with something happy. We were in the second wave of gay marriages in California. Lawrence Ingalls and Jason Cook from our congregation were in the first wave of that very small window before Prop 8 took marriages away again in California. In 2013, the Supreme Court was debating equal marriage. It's customary for them to announce their major rulings at the end of the year, right before they go on summer recess. So we knew that by the end of June 2013, we would have an answer one way or another. And by the way, Jan and I had already become domestic partners a couple of years ago, before that, to make sure that our son was taken care of and to get a few legal rights. So we were planning to get married sometime. Our rally was being planned at the Orange County Courthouse by the Orange County Equality Coalition and other prominent figures in the gay rights fight. In mid-June 2013, I saw a Facebook post by Reverend Sarah Halverson, a friend of this congregation and the minister of Fairview Community Church, a progressive United Church of Christ church right across from the Orange County Fairgrounds. And she is a tireless advocate for gay rights, even though she's straight. She had just returned from a big planning meeting for this rally, and I wrote a note to her offering my services if the rally needed any music. And she said no, she didn't need any music, but she mentioned she was charged with preparing a wedding that would be held as part of the rally if the Supremes voted in favor of gay marriage. I jumped at that and said, do you already have a couple to get married? And she didn't. But since it was midnight and my wife was sound asleep, I had to tell her I'd get back to her in the morning. And I couldn't sleep very much because I was so excited about the possibilities, and I stared at Jan the whole night. And as soon as she cracked her eyelids open at 5 a.m., I said, do you want to get married at a rally? I warned her there'd be lots of people, and there might even be some press, and was that okay with her? And I'm not sure if she was just not awake or what, but she said yes. And it was not the most romantic proposal. We don't even have pictures of it or anything, but it did the job. And so with a maximum of 2.5 weeks to plan this wedding, possible wedding, we started our work. This wedding had no date, and it may in fact not even happen at all if the Supreme Court had ruled the wrong way. So I bought wedding clothes for all three of us, but I made sure to buy clothes that would work if the wedding didn't happen. I didn't want some big white thing. The press got interested in our story, and we agreed to have the Orange County Register cover us on whatever day it occurred. And it turned out we ended up on the front page with this long story, and if Jan had known that, she probably would have said, heck no. But by the time it happened, it was so exciting, and it was all okay. A friend of a friend of a friend had a bakery and agreed to donate a cake. He asked us what kind of cake we'd like so he could start planning, but he couldn't start making it until the day of the decision. Another friend of a friend of a friend was a florist and agreed to donate the flowers. I got a rainbow pedicure, we could do that ahead of time, and we rounded up all our friends and asked them to be ready for a wedding any day now, and asked if they'd be willing to bring some potluck goodies to the church for a party after our wedding. We knew we'd have less than 10 hours to prepare. The day of decision turned out to be June 26th, and happily, the Supremes gave us the right answer. Here's what they looked like on that day.
The Supreme
The
Court.
reporter and photographer from the Orange County Register came to our house at 6:30 a.m. to start interviewing us and taking photos. We were all on our phones looking for the news, and at about 7 a.m., the announcement was made and the gears started to turn. The photographer followed me around as I got ready for our wedding. He literally followed me into my bedroom because I got my makeup on. And then he went to visit the florist and the baker while they prepared. And I never even met these people. They were working while I was getting ready. And also Jan's best friend, Nina McCulloch, took the afternoon off and drove in from Palm Springs to be her, what do you call it, maid of honor. We made our way over to the courthouse for the rally, which started around 5 p.m. First, there was lots of talking by activists and religious leaders. Joey had enough. When in the heck is this thing gonna get going? So, and there was a moving ceremony where all the states were named that still didn't have marriage equality. Then it was finally time for our wedding. Practically all of our ceremony pictures have this photojournalist in them. Did he have to wear a bright yellow shirt? I ask you. And the sheriffs in the background, I figure they're part of our wedding party.
Yeah.
But they didn't seem to be enjoying themselves as much as we were. They had that sour face on them all the time. Now I have to mention that now you may kiss the bride part. You may have guessed that since Jan was in the military and public displays of attention are not allowed in the military even if you're straight, and also she has suffered extreme discrimination for being gay, she was not very outwardly expressive with me in public. So, knowing we would have to kiss at our wedding, we had to practice. I know it's a tough job. So, Joey, our son, would pretend to be the minister, and he'd say, "Now you may kiss the bride." And Jan would go, like I heard her or something. And I said, "You can't wince after you kiss me. That doesn't look right." And so we practiced and practiced and practiced until she could finally do it without making a sad face. And I'm happy to report that Jan didn't make a face. There were hundreds of people at our rally, including many of our friends from this church, and it was so exciting to hear all the cheers of celebration when Sarah said, "I now introduce to you spouses for life."
Nobody was here.
There's a few of you.
Here at the reception.
Before I wrap up, I have to mention our cake. It was the best cake ever. The baker said the latest thing is to have white on white writing. So we gave him a list of all our favorite song lyrics, many of which you've sung this morning. So this one is, when I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. So that was that whole side. And the other side had, how could anyone ever tell you you are anything less than beautiful? And standing on the side of love. There's a whole bunch of them. It was a 5-tier cake. Wow. And the best cake we've ever tasted ever in our whole lives. And the sugar flour topper was just gorgeous, and we still have it. It was amazing. So this day was so amazing, but it wasn't an official licensed marriage because the clerk of court hadn't been authorized to sign wedding licenses yet. So we had to get married again on July 1st. We have a lot of anniversaries. Which anniversary is this? So we stood on the same steps with Sarah and we said the same words over again, but this time we got a nice piece of paper to go with it. And Sarah literally was shaking when she signed her name. It was such a momentous occasion she had been fighting for so long. And our witnesses on the top left were Archer Altstetter and Laura Cantor, longtime gay rights activists, who were willing to come to the courthouse on a Monday morning at 8 a.m. to celebrate with us. And we snapped a photo with the first 4 couples to get married that day, and their dogs. We're still friends with the 2 women on the right. We had a long talk with them because we got there so early because we wanted to be first in line. So, oops, don't look at that yet. When we got married, we promised to continue fighting until all the states had equal marriage. But now that they also have that, we are fighting for trans rights and fighting against continued discrimination. Our thanks go out to OCUUC for your longtime support of LGBT issues. There's still so much more to do though. We must remain vigilant so our rights don't get taken away, and we'll all keep working on making our world a safer and more accepting place for everyone. And I'll end with this. It's very dear to me, this issue of gay marriage, or as I like to call it, marriage. Because I had lunch this afternoon, not gay lunch. I parked my car. I didn't gay park it. You can just call it marriage now. Thank you very much.